I want to talk about a magical moment in the history of our nation. It's when the U in United States went from being lowercase to capitalized. Do you know when this was? And within the backdrop of that inquiry, I want you to think of the concept of synergy. Synergy being defined as two things coming together such that the whole is now greater than the sum of the two parts. In other words, the union creates something bigger than the two things put together. So in 1776, we declared, among other things, that these United States are and ought to be free. United in that context, and it specifically was the representatives of these United States, but united in that context is merely a modifier, an adjective to describe states. States was capitalized. So the framers could have chosen conglomeration of states or collective of states. They chose united. Fast forward to 1788, New Hampshire becomes the 9th state to ratify the Constitution, and hence the supreme law of the land is born. We the people of the United States, as the preamble declares. United in that context is capitalized. We are coming together. There is a synergy between the people and the government. And to put it another way, there was a contract. This goes back to what's called social contract theory, where there's a pact between the people and the government, and both entities get something. The people get security, liberty, freedom. You might say, now wait a second, weren't the framers free? Well, yeah, they were, but think about it. We're 330 million strong right now. Can you imagine the United States without law, without order? If everybody's trying to do whatever they want to do, the irony is no one can do what they want to do because it's a so-called constant state of war and competition. Thomas Hobbes famously said, life in this kind of state is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. So, as the preamble continues, the framers said, among other things, we established this United States to secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity, right there in the preamble. What does the government get? Well, the government acts as the authority. The people vest power in the government to rule, to keep order. But as the deal goes, the government is not to rule in its own favor. It is to rule for the people. Now, what is government at its most fundamental level? Well, it's a collective of individuals, right? You think of the Federal Triangle in Washington, D.C. Got the congressional buildings, Dirksen, Hart, specifically the Capitol, right? The Supreme Court building and the White House, so-called Federal Triangle. Are the buildings and those institutions, is that government? No, it's the people. It is our elected officials or nominated officials in the case of Supreme Court justices. But it's not just the people, right? It's the people and the charge. And this is where we're very lucky as Americans, that our government has power insofar as it rules for the people. So those people in government are supposed to act in a way that benefits the overall whole. In other words, the public good. And to maintain that synergistic balance, there is then service. There's service from the government to the people, and then there's service from the people to the government. What's that look like? Well, from the government to the people, how about we pull out that Constitution? Let's talk about that Bill of Rights. There are 10 guarantees, well, I guess 9 guarantees, in the first 9 amendments to the Constitution. Well, kind of the 10th one is absorbed in it a little bit. That's getting into some political science nuance. But we have guarantees that are spelled out in that document. That was part of the contract. And what does service look like from the people to the government? Well, I'm sure you have your own conception of this. But certainly here is one example of proof that we do serve our government, and we ought to. I'm going to look at the newspaper. And actually, let's see here. This is from Wednesday, August 9th, 1944. 2 months before this, you had D-Day, Normandy. And I'm very proud of this. Look at that. So there's my grandfather, my great uncles, 5 members of the Miller family served their country, and my aunt, who was a WASP, a pilot in World War II. So maybe President Kennedy was right. It's not always about ask what your country can do for you, but rather it is what you can do for your country. And to close the loop of that inquiry, in order to maintain that synergistic dynamic, which is beneficial for all, perhaps it's not so important to talk about whether the U in the United States is lowercase or capitalized. Maybe it's better to think of it as spelled completely differently. Y-O-U.